Shout out to Yasiin Bey. We all know him as Mos Def. And he was on 𝗀𝐲𝐻 podcast. And they were talking about, he was basically talking about how they're getting pressed for their project, being able to put their project out. But the topic of streaming came up, and Mos was a little frustrated about the streaming process and the pay. He says it's not about streaming. That's not the problem. He says, you mean to tell me that the source of labor at the center of this experience is supposed to be satisfied and grateful with receiving a portion of a penny for their efforts and labor? And then the site goes on to show that the pay rates are around 0.00735 for Apple, 0.0074 for Amazon, 0.69 for YouTube, and then 0.125 for Tidal. Spotify is 0.003 to 0.005. Either way, these are pennies, not even pennies. So he expresses frustration with that. And then also, he really got, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but he really got hot about people pressing him about the project. And, you know, he's saying that they still want to wait. They don't have to rush or anything like that. But it made me think, from a streaming standpoint, do we think artists will ever get to the point where they want to try to make a stand against streaming services based off the limited amount of pay? Or would that even work? How would it be received? You know what I'm saying? Because there's really no union per se where people can get together and kind of maybe form something to go against it. The streaming services are going to have the power and the leverage. But what do you guys think about that? Do you ever see a situation where maybe some of the artists will try to get together and band and maybe put some pressure on some of these sites, maybe pull some of the music off? I don't know. It just made me think about it because Mos was upset with it. Lone, I'll come to you first. What do you think?
I don't know. I feel like we've talked about this in the past. Maybe I'm wrong, but months ago, maybe years. But
yeah,
yeah. I maybe a union is the right way to go. Maybe it's not. I'm not sure. But he's right in the sense that the streaming services have all the power, and it's not necessarily a monopoly, but it kind of is, I guess. Just through a handful of companies. It's really hard right now if you want to put music out and you want to boycott streaming services. It would take a major artist to do something like that. It would take a Jay-Z for like when he's launching Tidal or something like that to get a big push over for people to, like, people are not going to go away from streaming. It's not going to happen at this point. So I don't know. I don't see it. It's like Amazon. It's just like this ever-growing thing that's going to take over the world. So I don't know how. I don't know what the solution is to it, to be honest.
No, I feel you. I mean, it's the leverage is the hard part to get around.
I don't know how you leverage against them, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be the hardest part. It would take somebody of, significant stature to, I guess, make them at least think about it. Not right. Sweat per se, but at least think about it. But if you look at the payments, man, the payments are ridiculous. We've known that, but when you see it laid out across there, I can understand its frustration. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Jay Moore, what you think, man? Like, what is it going to take, or would it even work?
Sadly, the toothpaste is already out of the tube, and we're not going to get it back in. Anytime soon. And even if we could, like, it would be such a tedious process that I don't think it would work. At this point, because I think about artists that I really care about, and like when the last Little Brother album came out, and I listened to it several times over, but when you look at the pay rates, even through Tidal, which pays the most out of all, these streaming services, the amount of times I listen to it doesn't anywhere equate to a full if I'd have just bought the album, when I used, say they put it up on sale for $7.99, the amount of times I listened to it did not equate to $7.99.
Right.
So it is selling the artist short, because you can be a fan of somebody and maybe you only find a couple of songs on there that you really like, but these are the ones that are going to go into my playlist. Still, how many times are you going to play those songs? Is it going to equal an actual album buy? Chances are the answer is no. The only way it could happen is if say someone like Drake decided, okay, this next project, Certified Lover Boy, but I put it up on any streaming services. You have to come to my website. I'm going to have a website. We're going to, build out these servers, and, we'll be ready for the traffic when it hits. And, if you're really a fan of mine, I'm going to sell you the album for $7.99. We'll just stick with that number. And then that, but it could only be somebody with the leverage of Drake or Beyonce, or I can't even really think of anybody else who has that kind of leverage.
Jay-Z.
I don't even think at this point Jay-Z.
He did something similar at one point with the whole phone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah.
but still that was you basically had to already have paid for that through your subscription through having a Samsung phone.
Right.
So that was a way around that, so maybe it could be something like that. But if Drake is the one who, if he wanted to build out his own network and say, okay, the only way you're going to get my album is if you come to my website and you have your credit or debit card ready with $7.99 already loaded, then you can have the full quality album downloaded. Now that's the thing, people don't download music to their phones. At one point, half of my phone was music.
Yeah.
That I had downloaded, and I still, I still occasionally will go ahead and actually, if I want a song, and sometimes things don't stream or things can be out of print or whatever, and I can find it, I still like to have those things on my phone just in case I'm somewhere where that does not have internet. But we're just in a place right now to where, unless somebody with the star power of Drake, who is pretty much the biggest streaming artist,
ever.
ever.
But that would just leave him in a ball game by himself.
Yeah,
at the end of the day, because everybody can't choose that route to go
exactly
based off their popularity.
But if he decided he was going to show people the way, and maybe he was said, okay, if you don't want me to do this again, we're going to have to talk about what it is. These little half a pennies. This isn't something that's sustainable. When the record companies are making all this money, like their record companies are making record profits right now, but the actual artists are, you play my song a million times and I get $4,000. How does that sound right?
Right. Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know how it can actually really get better. It has to be something with the streaming services, like some sort of pressure has to be put on them to change.
And there's no incentive for them to change.
The thing about it is that unfortunately the ship has sailed on the music industry, because not only is it like that in the music industry, but even technology wise, so they're making laptops don't even have CD drives on them anymore.
Right.
New cars don't have CD players in them anymore.
Yeah.
So the only way that I'm going to be able to stream any music in my car is either listening to the radio direct and getting the over the airways stuff, or I need to be able to stream from my phone. Most people are going to choose the latter and stream from their phone, and they're paying that $10 fee to stream any album they want. I mean, we came up in an era where you paid $10 to get the album that you wanted, and now I'm paying $10 a month to get endless albums.
Yeah.
And they even got some services now that can connect to your DJ equipment, and you can literally stream all the. You have an endless library of music that you can stream directly to your set right now as you're playing. So what a lot of artists have done, I mean, and y'all are hip to this, is you have to create, you have to package it correctly for people to want to actually spend the money, which is where the merch comes in play. So you have to be able to sell merch, or now the new thing is NFTs, is if there's ways that you can put out projects and somehow grant somebody an NFT, is going to give them the incentive to want to purchase your music. There has to be something in order to make people want to purchase music, because people didn't come up like we did, unfortunately.
No, I mean, you talk to somebody who's 17 or 18 years old now, and buy music.
Yeah,
what?
Right.
Yeah.
Like the idea of even downloading music. Think about it when, in the old Napster days. I know we all remember, or
I know a couple people.
You're talking about 20 years ago. That was 99, 2000, to where, but I think this is what happened when the record companies instead of saying, okay, we got to adapt to changing technologies and changing formats and how, you know, music is distributed, they just tried to, all right, we're going to shut down Napster, and you guys are going to buy CDs one way or another.
Yeah.
You know what the thing about that is too, is that was a gift and a curse, because at the time it sounded like a good idea. Let's shut down Napster. People were at least still buying music at that time.
True.
People were getting it free as well, but you had certain people, they wanted that tangible album. They wanted to look at the liner notes. You know, they wanted to actually feel something.
Yep.
So they were losing money. But they weren't losing it like they are now in this streaming era. So it was almost like, I guarantee you, these artists would trade Napster being available,
Then the streaming
versus
era.
this whole streaming thing. Because I mean, if that hadn't ever came about, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Because I would
pretty much evolved.
I would stream albums. I mean, not stream albums, but download albums, just because I like when Commons B came out.
Yeah.
It was on the internet almost 3 weeks to a month before it hit the stores, and I just wanted it, and so I downloaded it. But because I was a fan and I liked what I heard, I still went out and bought it.
Yeah,
you know, even though it was crazy because it had
I didn't.
the downloaded the version I downloaded had the studio version of the food on it, and when I got the album, and then they took Consequences verse off.
Yeah. But the live version of the food, I just got used to it because, like you said, like
Chappelle
I remember,
show.
Yeah, the Chappelle show and everything, which I was cool with. But I do remember going out to buy that album, and he had a it was a enhanced CD.
No,
so,
it came with the DVD.
Oh, DVD, yeah. So they went through him picking out the album cover and, you know, recording process and all that type of stuff. So I thought that was dope as well. But to your point, like even in the midst of all that, we were in college and people were, you know, downloading everything. There was an attachment there where we still were used to going out to buy music.
And even the quality of some of those albums weren't good. You just wanted it because you were literally fiending to hear that music.
Yep.
So you would download that leaked album and still go out and purchase it. Or like some artists even switched the whole album up. I remember when Cameron's ESPN or what was that called?
STE.
STE, Sports, Drugs, and Entertainment. I remember when that leaked, that came out like maybe a year and a half before the actual album ever made it to see the light of day, and it was different than the one that came out. You know what I'm saying? So it was a great time to be alive, but at the same time I understand the gripes that the artist had. But again, fast forward to today, and you're in a whole nother ball game because you're not even getting near what you were getting back then.
Well, you think about these artists now, and they're charging $175 a ticket. You know,
Man.
or you know, and they got $45 T-shirts. I mean, it's crazy, but I get it because they're not getting any money from anywhere else.
$65 hoodies.
And that's on the low end.
And that's on the low end. And I've been to shows where people run up to the tables and cop at $65.
Oh yeah,
a
they
pop.
copping all day.
They sell
They getting a
out.
fitted hat. They getting the hoodie, and I'm easily spending $175 at a merch table, just because it's a part of the experience now. It's leaned on more now for the experience.
And it's not even just music. I don't know if y'all have been to a comedy show lately, but like literally at the end of the comedy show, the comedians, if they're not big name comedians, they're off the stage, greeting everybody as they're leaving, trying to get you to buy something from them.
Smart.
Yeah, because I mean, merch and having something tangible is where it's at. Just being able to see somebody on TV here and there, or being able to stream them, just isn't getting it done as far as the monetary revenue is concerned.
Well, just think about overall what we're talking about when we're talking about consumer entertainment. You know, of course, our expertise is music, if you will.
Talk to them.
Think about, like, remember, like, you would go to somebody's house and they had a massive DVD collection. You would be in envy of somebody.
Yeah.
Now you're like, why do you have all this stuff here? Unless it's something that's out of print, or a specialty item or something like that. Like,
Let me go to my broken fire.
Why would you?
Speak.
Or the same thing for, you know, video games. Used to be somebody come in and have a stack of games. Now, why do you have all this clutter?
Yeah.
Everything is digital. Like I don't have to go to GameStop or Best Buy. day one, I can pre-download things on my Xbox, and then they'll be on my hard drive, and then once a certain date hits, then I'm able to play it.
Hey, if something crashed though,
man,
we are gonna be so lost because
When Skynet,
nobody has any
Skynet
analog
goes active.
stuff. Yeah,
he's still.
there's no analog stuff. I mean, some people still have it. Like I still haven't gotten rid of my records or my CDs.
I got mine too.
Yeah,
or
I'm
DVDs for
I
that
buy
matter.
records to keep them off the street. I just got to have it.
There's another angle to this as well. I think the key, back to kind of the original point, I think the key is around advertising, because that's what fuels the money for everything.
Right.
Yep.
And in a lot of industries that are based around streaming and visual media, YouTube, Tidal, iTunes, SoundCloud, all that stuff, Spotify, even Twitch, what happens is, I don't know if you've watched a video and you've seen like the same ad over and over and over again. A lot of times there's just not enough advertisement to fuel the consumer base sometimes. So maybe the solution is something based around getting more advertisers to be able to contribute. Maybe it's around that somehow. I don't know. But
if you pay for that premium subscription, you don't get any.
You don't
ads.
get to see the ads.
I've seen people talk about that even with Twitch. There's a feature on Twitch where you can pay X amount a month and you get no ads on like everything or something.
Okay.
But their model is not built for everybody to do it. It's only built for, like, if everybody did it, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
You know, so this is all, even though like it is, the streaming companies need to pay artists more. I feel like the way the money comes from the advertisements. So it's still, in my opinion, on them to figure that out. But I think that's the key in there somewhere.
It's like anything else. Evolution, you adapt and find ways to, adjust. You know what I'm saying? So like Terry was talking about with the merch, like I think a lot of people, have adopted that. I didn't even realize the part about the comedians, but I just remember certain shows where I've been to and the merch was just flying. And I remember walking over there being like, yo, they killed them $65, $75 a pop.
Right.
And the people were just eating it up. So
That's all their money, too.
My only thing with that is that it takes the argument and the conversation away from what streaming platforms
about the
are
streaming.
doing.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like
fair.
that's putting more accountability on the artist, which I think is okay, right?
Yeah.
Because they're going to be better off for it. But it doesn't take away from the fact that the streaming platforms still aren't paying anybody.
The streaming
I agree.
streaming companies are getting rich. The record companies are getting their money, and the people who drive this whole engine are being shortchanged.
I mean, I couldn't have said it better. We can leave it there.
Yeah,
That's
it's
a good point.
called capitalism, I believe.
Is that what it's called?
Here we go.
I heard something about that.
I heard
on the
something about
news.
that. Yeah,
A little bit.
Shouts to DJ Spoolz.
There we go. Shout out to the homie Spoolz,
Yeah.
man. That's the homie.
If you've enjoyed this segment of the New Old Heads podcast, make sure you join our live show every Tuesday from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/newoldheads. You can also catch playback of all of our shows on any podcast app and youtube.com/newoldheadsnetwork. And go to newoldheads.com/community to join our Discord.